First reading is a reading from the book of Exodus. Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. Leading the flock across the desert, he came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in fire, flaming out of a bush. As he looked on, he was surprised to see that the bush, though on fire, was not consumed. So Moses decided, I must go over to look at this remarkable sight and see why the bush is not burned. When the Lord saw him coming over to look at it more closely, God called out to him from the bush, Moses, Moses. He answered, Here I am. God said, Come no nearer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. I am the God of your father, he continued, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. The cry of the children of Israel has reached me, and I have truly noted that the Egyptians are oppressing them. Come now, I will send you to Pharaoh to lead my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and lead the children of Israel out of Egypt? He answered, I will be with you, and this shall be your proof that it is I who have sent you. When you bring my people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this very mountain. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
The responsorial psalm, The Lord is kind and merciful.
The Lord is kind and merciful.
Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all my being. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits.
The Lord is kind and merciful.
He pardons all your iniquities. He heals all your ills. He redeems your life from destruction. He crowns you with kindness and compassion.
The Lord is kind and merciful.
The Lord secures justice and the rights of all the oppressed. He has made known his way to Moses and his deeds to the children of Israel.
The Lord is kind and merciful.
Blessed are you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth. You have revealed to little ones the mysteries of the kingdom.
Alleluia. Alleluia. Alleluia.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
At that time Jesus exclaimed, I give praise to you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, for although you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, you have revealed them to the childlike. Yes, Father, such has been your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wishes to reveal him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise be to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
It's amazing how a childhood experience, for as ordinary as it may be, is an opportunity to learn valuable lessons. So bear with me as I tell you the childhood experience. When I was growing up as a kid, growing up as a very large family, I was the oldest of 5 children. My father was getting his business off the ground. My mother, very consciously, my father and her had decided that she was going to stay home to raise the kids, which I was very grateful for that investment. But of course, it meant that money was a little tight, and we depended for our education from the generosity of both the diocese, or the Oblates of Mary Immaculate for elementary school, and the Jesuits for high school. But one of the things that we used to do, it was a tradition in my family growing up, was that we would go to Mass on Sundays, and after we went to Mass, the options were to go to my grandfather's house for lunch, but that only happened during the Dolphin season, Miami Dolphins, because we go watch the game and eat at Rocco Pollo at his house. But then when it wasn't Dolphin season, I remember that we used to go instead to La Carreta. So my father in the station wagon, el piscicorre. He would stuff all the kids in there, and he would take us to La Carreta to have lunch. Now, here's the funny thing is, we would sit down at the table, and Veronica is the name of the waitress, who to this day is still there, and used to take care of us. And Veronica knew the drill. She understood the drill better than anybody else, because she would come in and she would give all the children menus, knowing full well that my father was the one who was going to order for us. And we were allowed to say whatever we wanted. Oh, I want el bistec panizado. No, yo quiero la vaca frita. No, yo quiero esto. And my father would say, okay, okay. And then he'd say, sandwich cubano para todo el mundo que está aquí. Everybody would have a Cuban sandwich. Now, I thought it was just my father being me. I didn't know that it was my father on a budget. But the opportunity to at least go out as a family and go to a restaurant, everybody got the same thing. And I remember this one particular time that sitting just to the right of my father was speaking to my mother across the table, and Veronica came and put the bill on those little plastic trays, right? Puts the bill right next to my father. And I saw the bill, and I picked it up to look at how much it cost. And my father snatched it from my hand, and he said to me, "Eso no tiene nada que ver contigo." And he put me in my place. Never again did that. You know, it's funny because you would think, well, what's going on? Why react as strongly as he did? My father had a very interesting way of understanding people's place as an adult compared to a child. I remember growing up as a kid also, how in my house, adults, including my parents of course, were very careful about what they said in front of the kids. And whenever they wanted to speak about something or say something that they felt was not appropriate, they would ask us to leave the room, for as much as we made a complaint about it. It was an understanding of that, and I'm very grateful to my father about that, because it taught me a lesson, a very valuable lesson. My father was very good in being able to teach us about the difference between him as the adult and as the parent, and me as the son and the child. And if there's one thing I've always been very grateful to my father about, is the fact that he understood that I had a lot of friends, and I didn't need another friend in my father. He was my dad. Your dad is your dad, and your friends are your friends. Now, I don't know how that sounds to the ear, but I can tell you, and of course the relationship has changed over time, because now as an adult it changes. The opportunities present themselves for there to be a greater friendship. But you can never underestimate how powerful the experience was growing up and understanding that difference. And it translates to my relationship with God. It translates to my relationship with God because I think it's incredibly important for us as children of God to know our place. That we are not God, but we are His children. And so therefore, if we need to leave the room, when He needs to speak, we need to leave the room. And if there's certain issues that do not concern us, then those issues do not concern us. And understanding our place in the world and understanding our place in that relationship with God is very, very important. I remember that when I was in the seminary, I used to take care of a Jesuit priest who was very, very old by the name of Kevin Montesino. And Kevin Montesino, shortly before dying, told me something. He says, Willie, after so many years of religious life and priesthood, I've come to the realization that there are only two things that I really know for sure. He says, number one, God does exist. He says, and number two, I'm not Him. He understood His place. And I think it's very important for us to understand our place. It is a lesson in humility. It's a lesson in being able to powerfully build a beautiful relationship with God as Father and we as His sons. And the reason why I think of this is because listening to the first reading or praying over the first reading earlier today, I'm amazed at how Moses has this incredible experience where with childhood wonder and curiosity, he sees the burning bush, the presence of God, and runs to go see it, runs to encounter it. And it's that childhood wonder which was very important for him to be able to scale that mountain in order to be able to reach the Lord. But notice the first thing that God says to Moses when he approaches. He says, step no closer. Stay right where you are, because you are standing on holy ground. Remove your sandals. In other words, between Moses and God, there was space. There was a slight distance. Moses got close, but there was always that distance which was able to safeguard what philosophers call and theologians call the otherness of God. God is completely other. And so that space safeguards the otherness of God. I think the challenge in our modern day society is that because of how much we have developed in science and in understanding, man thinks, that they can totally and completely bridge that space between God and man. This is my personal reflection. So again, I don't want Falero, who's the expert, to say anything afterwards. This is, Falero, my personal reflection of an experience. But the first time I ever went to see the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and stood under that extraordinary vaulted ceiling to see that beautiful and extraordinary painting by Michelangelo, and knowing full well that Michelangelo was not simply a painter or a sculptor or an artist, but he was also a theologian because he understood theology. As I stared and gazed and even contemplated that scene of the creation of man, I was taken aback by the fact that I was able to spend almost 30 minutes contemplating one particular detail of that painting. And that was the space between the finger of God and Adam's finger. There's a space there. Now, it could very possibly be that he used it for whatever reason. Maybe it was more dramatic, maybe he ran out of paint so he couldn't extend the fingers. I don't know what it was. But the fact of the matter is that as I gazed upon that space and thought to myself, why does he not show the moment of contact which communicates life? I thought to myself, well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that while God looks like a man and Adam looks like a man, and while they're in very similar positions, even though one is leaning forward and the other is kind of leaning back, reaching out, maybe, this is me, maybe the fact is that the space was left on purpose as a way of saying that there is a gap that can only be bridged by faith. At the end of the day, maybe the fact that that space is there is because there is a gap that can only be bridged by faith. Neither science, nor technology, no art, nor music, no sculpture, no architecture, nothing can bridge that gap. Only our faith. In knowing our place, respecting the otherness of God, and believing in Him whom we cannot totally and completely comprehend, understand, control, or manipulate. See, this is the challenge for the modern day society because we have developed science so much. We have developed our technology so much that we are convinced that we can control the world, but we cannot control God. It's like the story of the Tower of Babel, right? For as much as you try to build up the tower, he'll knock you down. Your own pride knocks you down, really. And so respecting the otherness of God, that space that Moses respected between him and the burning bush, which is the presence of God. And I think, going back to my first reflection with my experience growing up as a kid, I think children understand that better than adults. Children understand what their place is at the home. When I do weddings, I always tell the couples that are getting married, I say, remember that with the sacrament of marriage, you are committing to the fact that your wife or your spouse becomes the most important person in your life. And then I make it a point to emphasize, and when you have children, that does not change. Your spouse continues to be the most important person in your life. And I tell them, and they kind of get scandalized by this, but I tell them very clearly, if you want to do your children a great favor and teach them an extraordinary lesson, remind them, not so much through word, but mostly through action, remind them that in your house they are second-class citizens. They are second class to your wife, or they're second class to your husband. And that's an extraordinary lesson because they learn their proper place. And it translates not only to the way that they relate with others, but it translates to the way that they relate to God. And that's why Jesus says, you reveal these great mysteries to the childlike, to those who are like children, because we understand our place. And we understand that to know God is a grace. So let us be open to that grace. Let us understand our place in that great relationship with God who is our Father.